All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Sharon with ATI. We want to thank you for joining us today for this presentation. Just to give a quick introduction, VeriToll is the first tolling as a service, or TASS company, that is offering products and services to ease the burden of toll road logistics. CEO Chris Higgins and CTO Joe Silva have 20-plus years experience in the transportation industry. They have founded numerous companies, hold over a dozen patents, and have gained vast entrepreneurial experience from successful companies, Kickstarter campaigns, licensing agreements, product development, and company partnerships. And with that, we are going to hand this presentation over to Chris Higgins and Joe Silva. Thank you very much.
So just getting here in presentation mode, and everybody, well, can't respond. Hi, everybody. I think I can hear Joe, right?
Yes. Yep.
All right. Great. So Joe's going to cut in whenever he feels fit. Thanks for jumping on the webinar today. I'm Chris Higgins with VeriToll, and thanks to Sharon and the ATI team for the introduction and hosting and putting this all together. As we mentioned, Joe Silva is also on the phone. And just a note regarding questions, we do have that chat window open, but I think the best way that we're going to have questions is to either email it directly to Sharon, or we have our email address at info@veritoll.com. So we'll be collecting all those questions, putting together answers, and shipping it back out to everybody listening in right now. And just to give a couple last-minute stragglers a few minutes here, I'll just talk through a couple things, but where is everybody from? I know that when we launched this thing at the IBTTA last June, we had actually quite a few countries that I wasn't familiar with having toll roads. So if you can practice putting some information in the chat room there, where are you from? What state? Joe and I originally from California here and are currently there, but we've been traveling between Virginia, Nevada. I was in New York 2 years ago, in Virginia last year, and tons of trips to Australia. So just looking to see where everybody's from on here. I won't do this for too long because we're actually a few minutes into it. Comments on participation too.
Chris, maybe just want to roll into it.
Yeah, all right. I'm good with that. So this presentation will look at how CrowdToll increases performance, improves accuracy, and reduces the costs associated with manual imaging. So we were asked to share a little bit about what we're up to because, as Sharon mentioned, Joe and I are kind of entrepreneurs. We're very much have been working as serial entrepreneurs since about 2010. He and I started working together. But in the last couple of years, we've been focusing here on VeriToll and have put a lot of effort into CrowdToll, which is our crowdsourced image review platform. There's a great little whiteboard explanation at veritoll.com. It's about a minute long. I'd urge you guys to check that out, as well as a couple FAQs. With some whiteboard explainers. We did try to play the video here, but it was a little too jumpy to make you guys suffer through because it, it was obviously playing video over internet. So anyway, to get into this thing, a little bit about us. So we were founded in 2012 by Joseph Silva, myself, and Lindell Ann. About that time, I quit my day job and focused on entrepreneurship. VeriToll itself, however, we have focused a lot in the transportation industry. Joe kind of pulled me back in. I've been working on consumer electronics, and he's been steady with the transportation industry. We've got, at this point, actually several different products in tolling. We did an MBUF, or mileage-based user fee product that attaches to your OBD2 platform. Did a pilot with Oregon DOT a few years ago. We have a product called AutoToll that's essentially a GPS tolling technology. And what that does is allows you to audit during, and we used it, as I mentioned over there on the right, in industry proven. We used it on the 95 express lanes to essentially validate all the drivers' information automatically when they did their IAT and UAT. So we're trying to use, the technologies that are being pushed forward in kind of new and unique ways, trying to get new technology into this industry. As everyone on this call probably knows, that it's a bit of a challenge. So we did set up our base properly as far as we're concerned, with multiple patents, multiple products in the tolling industry, and right now we are focused on CrowdToll pushing that thing forward. So between the founders, we've got about 20 years experience in TransTech, and I think a little bit of our focus, and probably why we're a little used to the SaaS and software as a service platforms, is because we have done a lot in cloud and mobile technologies. CrowdToll and a lot of VeriToll stuff is based on AWS infrastructure. We have a lot of history setting up and porting large redundant systems that allow for the scalability that we're seeing within CrowdToll, but also within other products and for other organizations we work with. So Joe's done a great job with VeriToll in growing it. We've had, over the past few years, a few million in revenue. We peaked out at 20 employees thus far in contractors, and we actually did audit toll on the 95 express lanes in addition to some of the other things we're working on. So I'm going to jump over to the founders and just mention a little bit about us. So as I mentioned, I've been a lot in, I'm Christopher Higgins, CEO and co-founder. I've been mostly focused on consumer electronics over the past few years, about 2012 to 2016, and then started getting back into TransTech, transportation. Joe started kind of showing me the good ideas there and the opportunities that we could participate in. This industry is a little light on startups. There are a few, as you can see, as when you go to those conferences, ITS shows, IBTTA shows, especially. For myself, though, I've had about 14 products thus far within a couple companies. A couple that you might have heard of. If you're in the Raspberry Pi or Arduino crowd, I have a cellular device. It's called the CellD 1.0. It's currently distributed around the world. We'll be coming out with a quick charge USB device that should be on the shelves in your airports in the next year, or I'm sorry, next month or two. And the notable thing on the bottom there is a wireless Christmas tree. We have a technology where you put a loop on the bottom of your Christmas tree, put some bulbs in the tree, and they light up. So it's bringing wireless technology to consumerism. So anyway, and through that, we've had a ton of experience launching multiple businesses. We have co-founded 5 companies. I have gone through 3 successful Kickstarter campaigns. That's important to note, along with all this technology. So moving over to Joe here. Joe's got so far 6 patents he was able to put together for VeriToll, millions in revenue. He's co-founded 3 companies, also 10 years in transportation, and he's our resident ITS and tolling expert, architect, among many other things he's pulled into. He's got a quite big resume there. And the 2, was that Joe?
Oh, I was going to say, and we both have masters in electrical engineering, so we're not just some floozy hackers. Just want to make that clear for everyone as well. Yeah, that's how we really
I'm a floozy hacker.
That's the research. Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Seriously, no. We have true credentials behind us, but we do focus on some of the fun stuff and moving the ball forward. So just wanted to note there.
Yeah. No, thank you. And I heard the breath. I know you're wanting to talk. Yeah, so, and then Lindell Ann, you might have actually seen her on television. She's actually a performer. She's been on Mad Men, right next to Don Draper on the last episode, and she's been featured on NCIS, so feel free to go check out her IMDb page. But as artists are artists, they are really good at a lot of marketing, PR, digital strategy. If you visited us in the IBTTA in Boston, you would have seen her prowess in our booth. It was very unique, very startup, and that's when we launched CrowdToll. This was just, I believe, in June 2016, and we should be at the IBTTA coming up here in Atlanta in 2017. Since then, since the IBTTA in June, we've had a bunch of articles that they'll help bring out for us, and obviously we got involved with ATI here and are trying to spread our message and do some pilots and move this thing forward. So as I mentioned, we're definitely focused on CrowdToll these days, been through a couple different technologies, but we keep coming back to transportation, and we will be working here for the next few years. So the challenge. So everybody on the phone is probably actually familiar with the manual review challenge. I probably won't go into it as deeply as I normally do to investors and others, but just to give a quick overview for those who might not be, nearly every toll road uses some form or method of manual image review to process license plates that fail automatic computer review. So when you're driving under a toll road, a camera snaps a picture of your license plate, and it doesn't go through OCR, and you don't have a transponder, of course, it goes through manual image review process. That means someone in the back office is reviewing this license plate and typing in the characters and matching the state to determine what this vehicle's identification is, so they can go bill and take care of the enforcement mechanism. So obviously, without this manual review process, can lead to significant revenue loss and customer relations issues. Obviously, you're losing your enforcement engine at that point, and people would be more motivated to try and skirt paying the fees. So it's definitely a necessary part of the process and an unfortunate process in a lot of ways. So humans are required to participate in this process, and has traditionally, and I think we've all probably been witness of it, has presented a lot of performance, accuracy, and cost challenges. A lot of turnover with image reviewers, a lot of part-time workers. It's a fairly monotonous job if you've ever done it, and it is actually quite difficult. So coming up with this SaaS platform that we have addresses the three main things that you find on the screen in front of you. Performance and scalability, it's a huge thing we address. Manual image review, as I mentioned, is limited by a fixed staffing model. So it's slow to process. It's kind of very difficult to scale. You have to have new infrastructure, new people, get them trained up. And trying to grow your company, it means that you have to have a new set of image reviewers, a new set of technology to come in and couple those things together. As far as cost is concerned, it can be a significant cost driver for toll roads, and it really keeps the trip construction process from rolling forward if you have a backlog, if there's bad weather or anything like that. So any type of spike really limits your capabilities there. And the last one, just because I'm entrepreneurial and really like new technology and seeing things come together, and as we have talked to a lot of people at the IBTTA shows and ITS shows and technology in general with tolling, people want to move to mobile and GPS technologies. But if you think through that process, you're still required to have an enforcement engine. You still need the enforcement piece in the license plate. So even if you're trying to change technologies or grow this, you still have a high reliance on image review. And that is a huge barrier to entry for any new technology that wants to be tried out, whether it be giving people smartphones and trying to get them off the transponders. You still have to deal with their license plate. There's no real huge benefit when you have these types of things holding you down. So let's jump into what our solution entails here. So I've said crowdsourced image review. What does that really mean? It means that anyone with a mobile phone, anyone anywhere in the world essentially, can become an image reviewer with our platform. We break it up so that anyone out there that wants a little bit of a side hustle, a little bit of a side job, or actually potentially using this as their main source of income, depending on the country they live in, can participate. With this SaaS platform, there's no need for on-site staff, no need for facilities, no need for equipment to manage. We essentially take care of that. It really simplifies that process. And kind of, if you've ever dealt with any SaaS platforms, it's got a simple API to integrate with, so it's very simple to couple the solution with. And through our pilots, we've actually been able to build that API out and really test the ease of use of this platform, the ease of transferring images and metadata into the system to be used. So the cloud-based solution, you've probably all heard of the cloud, and if everybody's not already moved over to the cloud, that's probably where we will be going. Because the high availability of it, the geographic redundancy, the essentially automatic disaster recovery capabilities that are built into most cloud-based solutions these days, it just creates such an advantage over traditional methodology. So like I mentioned, it also allows us to be worldwide and have our reviewers all over the globe. So the four main things we're focusing on down here, you'll see, are accuracy, performance, scalability, and price. So with our system, and one of the key things and one of the FAQs that people always ask about is the accuracy. How are we using these image reviewers to gain a higher sense of accuracy in our system? And it's pretty simple. We can have more reviewers review the same license plate because, why? Because they only get paid based on their accuracy. They only get paid if they get it right. We don't want people, and we can't have people watching a movie and just hitting A continuously, or listening to the radio and really not paying attention, or doing something else, or even scripting a solution and getting this through. So we have come up with a lot of unique ways, some of which are patented, to limit anybody trying to fool around with the system. But in all honesty, when it comes down to it, if you're comparing multiple people and they have different results, you can tell who's being accurate and only pay those people who are paying attention and have a high accuracy. Regardless, we've seen with our people that even on an individual level, they have plus 95 for a single person. So that means when you combine all those together, you're getting a high accuracy, greater than 4 nines, and you're able to sort out those that are just trying to skirt the system and extract money from us, essentially, from those that are actually trying to do a good job. So we can get more reviewers per image and therefore increase our accuracy with a lower cost. So performance-wise,
and they are incentivized. I just wanted to add there, Chris, right? So they're financially incentivized to get the right answer, and they're de-incentivized to get the wrong answer. So that's something traditionally with a staff, you might pay someone for days or weeks and spend actually have a lot of errors come out of that person that you've hired off the street. And it's very difficult to correct that as part of the process in terms of they've given you a lot of wrong answers, you're still paying that person. Versus in our model, we only pay for the right answer.
Yeah, I'm sure I have that note somewhere. Good, thanks for bringing it up. We've actually experienced several times where our system's been down and it hasn't actually been the reviewer, but we're paying for butts in the seat. Whereas here, there is no expectation of a constant paycheck. It's if there's work, they can sign in, they can do the work, and they'll get paid for that work, if it's right. So we're not paying for butts in the seats. That allows us to really get as much as we can out of people working with us. So performance-wise, we've seen images reviewed in minutes and hours, not days and weeks. So our first pilot, we'll get into a little more of the details in a minute here. We had 10,000 done in first hour. That was our first outing, less than an hour, had 10K done. The second time, we grew to over 2,000 reviewers signing up for our system. So we've currently got, I think, 2,000 people. This is just through our pilots. Signed up to do recurring review work for us. And we have full stats on them, and we can tell automatically who's doing a good job and who we want to present with further opportunities. As far as scalability is concerned, you're virtually unlimited at this point, being a SaaS platform, a centralized platform. We take care of finding the image reviewers, and through the multiple channels we have the ability to handle virtually unlimited growth at this point in time, or at least as much as anybody's going to be able to throw our direction. So you're able to grow your business, add a new toll road without even checking in with us. You just start sending us more pictures. Creates, instantaneously, it's on demand. If you have a spike because of weather, there's no backlog with us. It just kind of flows seamlessly. The industry, the workforce kind of handles it because obviously there's more demand, there's more people working on it, supply demand, right? Then we look at price, and as compared to traditional methods, we'll chat about in a minute as well, you're not dealing with infrastructure, you're not dealing with the personnel. We're able to get at least a 50% savings over the traditional methods. that you'll see in either an insourced or outsourced method. Insourced, meaning on-site, on-premises, you're probably looking at more of a quarter cost. But if you're doing an outsourced, there's still a significant cost savings in what we're doing. So by leveraging our mobile, crowd, and cloud technologies, we aim to fix the problems we just mentioned on the last slide, obviously what we're targeting, and reduce those costs by about 50% or more compared against those traditional methods. So I'll just jump to a little bit of the overview of how we do what we do. So it's a little diagram of how we work. We have a picture of the U.S., but it's really not limited by the U.S. It could be it's a worldwide system. We pull images from anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, to our centralized SaaS platform. Like I mentioned, we have AWS infrastructure. The way we set it up, it's highly redundant. It's geographically redundant, inherent disaster recovery, so that I don't know if you guys are familiar with the S3 down outage that happened the other day. It won't affect us because we're across multiple regions, so we don't suffer from the single availability zone issues that would have brought down certain applications that were focused on a single AZ. As far as the review channels are concerned, our pilots have been intensely helpful because we've been able to set up the infrastructure components, the automation, several of our review channels here, tested a bunch of them to enough that we're actually very confident moving forward, and our next step is to launch later in the year here. And the review channels there on the right essentially means that we use a variety of mechanisms to complete these reviews. And as we drive forward, review channels may change based on availability, based on cost, based on a number of factors, but we do a couple innovative things, and actually that's where a lot of our IP lays, is we do pass through an OCR and an LPM mechanisms, which is more of your automation. It really targets those high levels of license plate, gets to a point where we can bring down the cost of our license plates a lot, so it opens up a lot of possibilities in the future for license plate review technologies. Main one right now is the crowdsourced. We're talking about mobile app-based and web-based reviewers. And then other channels as we move forward are essentially your CAPTCHA, gamification, and partner reviews to essentially make this a little more fun, but also inject it into other forms of other opportunities, get it out there into games or websites or things like that in order to, like I said, drive the price point down, help with accuracy, but also enable a lot of interesting possibilities when it comes to license plate reviewing and what it can support and how we're going to function within toll roads moving forward here in the future.
Chris, I just wanted to add maybe one thing if you flick back to that last slide.
Back.
In terms of and we do have multiple patents that we've published or submitted non-provisionally around this, but we also have some concepts or some provisions around including machine learning and artificial intelligence. So one of the benefits of having a crowd review plates is we get the wisdom of the crowd, and that wisdom can then be used to actually train the machines to increase our automation. So for us, this is something that we're going to be focusing a lot of our efforts on and investing a lot of dollars in here in the upcoming fiscal year, is not only getting the scale that the crowd provides, but we're also going to be able to take that wisdom and build machines that learn from the crowd. And if you've looked at AI or machine learning, that's how a lot of organizations such as Amazon and others have been able to achieve large-scale and improved machine design, is through people training the machines. So this is one area that we're going to be focusing on and leveraging some of the IP that we developed a year or two ago in this area. So for me, that gets me really excited from a technology perspective in terms of what type of capability we can see. What that really means is we'll see higher automation, higher accuracy at a significantly lower cost, even from from a cost base that we're already seeing with crowdsourced, which saves up to 50% or more. we could even see further reduction in cost as a result of this and increase in performance and accuracy. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, I still like it. I'm not too excited too quick. Walk before we run, right? All right, so our progress thus far, and we are taking this methodically and getting to the point where Joe and I were just mentioning the other opportunities. So where we are now, we have been in talks with dozens of agencies and authorities, multiple integrators and vendors, and we have done a couple pilots at the moment. Like I mentioned before, we had our first pilot, did 10K images in less than an hour. The 100K images really proved, within the second pilot, sorry, the ability to scale up our system, sign up image reviewers that are interested in working continually for us with this type of technology. So from the worker side of it, we've had a lot of experience there, set up the infrastructure, the automation, and that gave us quite a bit of information on pricing and what we want to launch. So we essentially are just waiting to put everything together and launch so that later on in the year 2017, we can target customers and start integrating. We're actually marching down that path currently. The start of it was, as I mentioned, in Boston 2016 at the IBTTA show. It was a good success for us. We launched, we had a lot of attention. It was a lot of work, but it definitely paid off. We are looking forward to seeing you guys at the Atlanta show here in September. You might have seen us in a couple of articles since then, and we are currently working on solidifying our funding so this thing can really grow and get going to a much higher level than we are currently. Yeah, that was pretty much where we are, just a quick overview. And I will move on, my computer will let me, to talking a minute about our pilots. So pilot one, it was conducted with an industry vendor. As I mentioned, we did do 10,000 images in less than an hour. That was about 300 reviewers got on just instantaneously. That wasn't anybody we had signed up. We just put it out there to the crowd. They jumped on, and then on the second pilot we have now people signed up to the service that we can rely on to come back and do more for us. That achieved about 99.99% accuracy, and that was a pretty simple test where we now go back and do a few more rounds. So we expect our accuracy to be higher. I will mention in a minute image quality issues with respect to not only accuracy but pricing. In the first pilot, it also proved that we're about half the price of outsourced image reviewers. We have a little comparison in a minute just to touch on that, but it did prove, pricing model proved a little bit about the accuracy and the scalability of our system. In pilot number 2, it was conducted with the toll authority, reviewed about 100,000 images thus far, and we're hoping to extend that to about 5 million images. We're kind of still in the final stages of that one, so we'll figure out in the near term where we are and hopefully be able to submit some new articles to let the industry know where we're at. And as I mentioned, we signed up about 2,000 reviewers to CrowdToll. So that was just from that second pilot of 100,000 images being reviewed, got 2,000 image reviewers into our system, signed up. As you can see, that's just 100,000. As you obviously work daily, that number is going to go up as we leverage other channels and other opportunities, so that scalability, that growth opportunity is there. So I'm just taking my notes here, make sure I hit everything. And so it essentially, with this information we've gained from these 2 pilots, it allows us to plan our upcoming launch. It breaks down pricing, time, accuracy, and that's really based on required turnaround and image quality from the source. So if you think about it, if you have a lower image quality from the source, that really determines the cost that we're allowed to provide, because if the quality is less, we might need a few more reviews. If the quality is greater, we might need less to achieve a certain accuracy. So there is a trade-off there. We're also doing what's interesting is we might be able to even say, okay, well, if you have a surge and you want to put it in our pipeline a little quicker and get those processed faster because of either IAT or UAT, or you just have a load you need to get through because of either business rules or some other mechanism, we can make that happen and allow you to be on a different tier to really push it to the front of the line in the pipeline, you're talking about maybe 1 to 12 hours versus 24 hours or something like that. It shifts in the pipeline, and that'll all be detailed when we launch here. And just a note, we're looking at more of the blind reviewers as we start out here, but as we talked through a couple different vendors here, we have the ability to do a couple different things with our pipeline. We have a lot of modularity built in. There's no one right way to do this, so if you guys have your own image reviewers at your own facility that you want to utilize, that's fine. We can redirect the images that way, and that means obviously we're taking care of all the infrastructure, all the software, the UIs, the front end, and even storing it long term if you want, so you don't have to stand up any NASAs or any SANs or anything on site. Store that stuff, which is very costly and it takes a lot to keep up with. So you can essentially give us 1 or 100 images of a transaction. We'll pick the best one and review it, or the best couple, front and back, that you guys need. We can provide for grouping, run the OCR, keep track of fingerprint data for you. So anything around the manual image review process, it's pretty easy for us to integrate. So these different channels are going to be things that we're building out from where we are with the base line image reviewers and the full transaction review capability. But just to mention, we are focused on that to start. Got to get out there at the MVP and move forward, and build that as we move. So as Joe sends you back there, I'll do a little bit of a market comparison just with some high-level figures. This is really a quick approximation. It's not the final pricing. And if you think about your system, numbers could vary a little bit. But in general, when talking to several different agencies and several different backends, these are about-ish numbers that we're talking about. We're talking in-source is obviously the most expensive, the most time-consuming, where you have your people in the back office. It has on-site staff and facilities, really not much scalability in terms of spikes in image review needs. Processing time is very limited to the staff you have on hand. 12 to 72 hours is typical. We've seen it go much further than that sometimes. And your accuracy is limited. Very difficult to figure out if your people are doing well. You have to do continual auditing, which takes a lot of time and money. CapEx, you're talking $500,000 to $1 million. And then the cost per image review is obviously the maximum with the in-source methodology. Then you jump over to outsource, and you might be able to get the on-site or no on-site staff and no facilities. But you're still having scalability issues. You still have processing time issues. You're still limited by the staff. You can't really spin up more people. They have to still bring in and train more people. CapEx, you also still might have to shell out money to get those offices spun up. And your cost per review and total cost is less by typically a half, but it's still not as far as we can go. So putting it all in a centralized platform, putting it all with a no on-site staff facility demand, having the scalability, reducing the process time because of the scalability and the amount of reviewers that are able to touch our system at any one time, being able to increase that accuracy, not having any upfront CapEx, facilities, systems, and lifecycle costs, really drives down the price for you guys. We're able to offer a much lower price, and as Joe mentioned, as we grow in the automation and are able to offer other opportunities, other technological opportunities to the tolling industry, these prices can even be reduced. Essentially, if you're giving us more images, the price goes down. And if you go even further, and we're talking millions of images and transactions, that price can be significantly minimized with some of the other technologies, therefore opening up the scale to a lot of new technologies that I'm sure we'll have another webinar on within the year. All right, yeah, that's all I'll talk about there. So just I know we mentioned send questions to Sharon that you have about this technology, send it to us at info@veritoll.com, but I do want to mention the main questions that we get, and there are some fun whiteboards. Lindell is actually a great artist, and she comes up with these, tapes them, edits them together, and we throw them on there. So they're great explainers. They're each less than a minute, I think 30 seconds long, and they do an incredibly better job at explaining this stuff than I do. But if you're talking about auditing, we can use CrowdToll as an auditing mechanism. So if you have OCR reads, a lot of people were complaining about, a lot of customers, there's a lot of customer complaints in your system that you probably realized, because, hey, this OCR read isn't my car. I got a letter, I got a violation notice, it's not me. And people get mad. Well, we could use CrowdToll in a methodology where it's a lower price. We just do maybe one round to validate those OCR reads. It's an inexpensive way to either validate and audit OCR reads or even image review mechanisms, like if you want to audit the people in your facility. Easy way to do that. Privacy. Privacy is a concern for some, it's not a concern for others. Obviously the easiest way is to provide the full license plate so the image reviewer gets a good read, but some people are concerned, so we have put into some of our patents and some capability to split up the license plate. If you split it in half, just say, there's really no traceability back to the original vehicle. We show here in the middle, there's a little graphic, and that's what we show on the whiteboard, that you split it up into more portions. That does require more cost, so splitting it in half is quite easy and provides any pricing, or I'm sorry, any privacy alleviation concern of those concerns that you may have based on your business rules or state rules or anything like that. The last one we mentioned, and it's probably the most important, and we keep getting asked about it, and so I will repeat it again. We do guarantee the reviewers do a good job because of the money. They are incentivized to do a good job. They don't get paid if they don't get it right. They don't get paid just to sit around if the OCR system's down or there's no backlog. There is no expectation of consistent work. So when it's available, it will be done. Just like TaskRabbit and Uber, you know, if there's no passengers wanting an Uber, the Uber driver doesn't make money. If he doesn't drive the person, he doesn't make money. It's the same concept. It's driving towards this kind of work-at-home model that really helps with, it helps the consumer on cost. So that being said, hopefully you guys can ask any questions you want. Next steps, we are looking at continuing our pilot opportunities, and if anybody's interested in partnering, that's always a possibility. Like I said, we are still kind of in the middle right now. I won't go too far into it, but in the middle of our funding, so that should really help us drive this forward and get a lot more people on board, so we can drive much quicker in getting past our MVP here. So again, this was kept it. Oh, actually talked for a little longer than I thought. But you saw about 20 minutes. Send us some emails, info@veritoll.com, or to Sharon. Go check out the whiteboard animation, explainer bids, or feel free to get back to work if you're good with that. And we thanks to Sharon and the ATI team. This is a great opportunity, and we're looking forward to working with them in the future and getting a couple more of these things together once we get a little further in and can provide everybody a little better idea of how we're doing and how things are faring. I can say right now with the pilots, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a very interesting opportunity for us and for the industry. And like all SaaS technologies, hopefully you realize from this deck, it's pretty straightforward and concise, pretty easy to implement, and we hope to make it something that is not only fun, but a help to your business and winning bids in the future. So thanks to everybody. Have a great day. And Joe, did you want to add anything? Sharon?
Thank you to everyone for joining, and appreciate your time. I know how valuable it is these days, so really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'll leave that up, info@veritoll.com or www.veritoll.com to check out that. Just navigate to our products and CrowdToll page, view the whiteboards, find a little bit more info, and connect with us. So I think that's everything. So thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you all. Just so you know, we will be making these resources available to attendees. If you're interested in reviewing a recording of this event or receiving a copy of the presentation, those will be available, and you'll be contacted in an email in the next couple of hours about that. Thank you very much, and have a nice day.
Thanks, Sharon. Thanks, everybody.